Hey and welcome back. Let me quickly show you what we're building in this video. On the screen right now, you're looking at a clean, modern message input component, perfectly centered on a dark background. It has that sleek app-like feel you see in real chat applications, subtle borders, smooth rounded corners, and a minimal color palette that feels professional and intentional. On the left, there's a custom file upload icon built with SVG. When you hover over it, the strokes smoothly transition, the circle fills in slightly, and a tooltip fades in that says, Add an image. It's a small detail, but it instantly makes the UI feel more interactive and polished. In the center, we have a clean, borderless text input that blends seamlessly into the container. As soon as you focus or start typing, the entire component responds. The border highlights, and the send button on the right visually activates using pure CSS. That send button is another SVG with smooth hover effects, giving clear feedback without any JavaScript at all. This is a compact UI, but it's packed with modern design details, animations, transitions, SVG icons, and a dark theme that works perfectly for chat apps or dashboards. And the best part? We're building all of this using just HTML and CSS. So now that you've seen the final result, let's jump in and build it step by step. But before that, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Let's dive in. We begin inside the body element. This is where all visible content on the page lives. Everything the user sees will be inside this body. Inside the body, we have a div with a class called MessageBox. You can think of this as the main container. It is going to hold the entire message input area, including the upload icon, the text input, and the send button. Inside the message box, the first thing we see is another div with a class of file upload wrapper. This wrapper is responsible for grouping everything related to uploading a file. Inside the file upload wrapper, we have a label element. This label is connected to a file input using the for attribute. When we click this label, it will trigger the file input even though the input itself is hidden. Inside the label, we place an SVG element. This SVG is used to display an icon. It contains a circle and two path elements. Together, they visually form a plus icon inside a circle. This gives the user a clear visual cue that they can add something like an image. Still inside the label, after the SVG, we have a span element with a class called tooltip. This span contains the text add an image. This text will appear when the user hovers over the icon, helping them understand what the icon does. After the label, but still inside the file upload wrapper, we have an input element of type file. This is the actual file input. It allows the user to choose a file from their device. Even though it exists in the HTML, it will not be directly visible to the user. Then we have an input element for allowing the user to type a text. After that, we have a button element for sending the message. It also has an ID of send button. Then inside the button, we have an SVG, which shows the send button. And that's all for the HTML section. Just that easy. Now we move into the CSS, and we're going to start from the top and go in order. I will explain every property and every value as we go. First, we target the body element. We set the height to 100 viewport height. This means the body will take up the full height of the browser window. Next, we set the display to flex. This allows us to use Flexbox to control layout and alignment. We then justify the content to the center. This centers everything horizontally inside the body. After that, we align items to the center. This centers everything vertically inside the body as well. Then we set the background color to a very dark gray color using a hexadecimal value that represents almost black. This gives the page a dark theme. Finally, for the body, we set the font family to Inter. This controls the typography used across the page. Next, we move on to the message box class. This is the main container that wraps the entire message input area. We set the height to 40 pixels. This defines how tall the message box is. We again use display flex. This allows all child elements inside the message box to sit next to each other in a row. We set the background color to a dark gray color using a hexadecimal value. This helps the message box stand out from the body background. Then we add padding on the left and right of 15 pixels with 0 padding on the top and bottom. This creates spacing inside the box so the content does not touch the edges. Next, we apply a border radius of 10 pixels. This gives the message box rounded corners. We also add a border that is 1 pixel thick, solid, and a slightly lighter gray color. This outlines the message box. Right after that, we target the message box when it is focused within. This means when any input inside it is focused. For this state, we change the border to 1 pixel solid with an even lighter gray color. This gives visual feedback that the message box is active. Let us continue moving down the CSS in order and talk about the file upload area styling. Next, we target the file upload wrapper class. We set display to flex. This allows the contents inside this wrapper to align nicely in a row. We also set align items to center. This vertically centers the upload icon inside the message box. After that, we target the file input using its ID file. We set display to none. This hides the default file input from view. The user will not see the native file picker button. Instead, interaction will happen through the label element, which is styled visually. Next, we target the label inside the file upload wrapper. We set the cursor to pointer. This tells the user that the icon is clickable. We set display to flex so the contents inside the label can be aligned properly. We set justify content to center. This centers the SVG icon inside the label. We also set position to relative. This is important because the tooltip inside the label will be positioned absolutely relative to this label. Then we move to the SVG inside the label. We set its height to 18 pixels. This controls the size of the upload icon. Next, we target the path elements inside the SVG. We apply a transition of all properties over 0.3 seconds. This allows smooth visual changes when hovering. We do the same for the circle element inside the SVG. Again, transition all properties over 0.3 seconds. This keeps animations consistent between shapes. Now we define hover behavior. When the user hovers over the label, we target the SVG path elements. We change the stroke color to white. This makes the icon stand out on hover. We also target the SVG circle on hover. We change the stroke color to white and set the fill color to a darker gray value. This gives a subtle background fill effect inside the circle. Finally, in this section, when the user hovers over the label, we target the tooltip element. We set display to block and opacity to 1. This makes the tooltip visible when hovering over the upload icon. Let us keep moving down the style sheet and continue exactly where we left off. Next, we style the tooltip class. We set the position to absolute. This allows the tooltip to be placed relative to its parent, which is the label. We set the top value to -40 pixels. This moves the tooltip above the upload icon. We set display to none. This keeps the tooltip hidden by default. We set opacity to 0. This works together with display to make sure it is not visible until hover. Next, we set the text color to white so it is readable against a dark background. We set the font size to 10 pixels. This keeps the tooltip small and subtle. We set text wrap to now wrap. This prevents the text from breaking into multiple lines. We then set the background color to black using a hexadecimal value. This gives the tooltip a dark background. We add padding of 6 pixels on the top and bottom and 10 pixels on the left and right. This creates space around the tooltip text. We add a border that is 1 pixel solid with a dark gray color. This outlines the tooltip. We apply a border radius of 5 pixels. This slightly rounds the tooltip corners. Next, we add a box shadow with 0 pixels horizontally, 5 pixels vertically, 10 pixels blur, and an RGBA value that includes transparency. This gives the tooltip a floating effect. We also apply a transition of all properties over 0.3 seconds. This allows the tooltip to fade in smoothly. Now we move on to the message input element. We set the width to 200 pixels. This controls how wide the text input is. We set the height to 100% so it matches the height of the message box. We set the background color to transparent so it blends with the message box background. We remove the outline by setting outline to none. This removes the default focus outline. We remove the border by setting border to none. This gives a clean, flat look. We add padding on the left of 10 pixels. This creates space between the text and the upload icon. We set the text color to white so typed text is visible on the dark background. This is the final section of the CSS, so let us finish this up by looking at the input states and the send button. First, we target the message input when it's focused and also when it is valid. From there, we use the sibling selector to reach the send button SVG path. For this state, we set the fill color to a dark gray value. We also set the stroke color to white. This visually activates the send icon when the user is typing or when the input has valid content. Next, we move on to the send button itself. We set the width to fit content. This means the button will only be as wide as its contents. We set the height to 100% so it matches the height of the message box. We set the background color to transparent so it blends in with the container. We remove the outline by setting outline to none. We remove the border by setting border to none. This keeps the button clean and minimal. We set display to flex so we can easily align the icon inside the button. We set align items to center to vertically center the SVG. We set justify content to center to horizontally center the SVG. We set the cursor to pointer so the user knows the button is clickable. We apply a transition of all properties over 0.3 seconds. This allows smooth hover animations. Next, we target the SVG inside the send button. We set the height to 18 pixels. This controls the size of the send icon. We also apply a transition of all properties over 0.3 seconds to keep animations smooth. Then we target the path inside the send button SVG. Again, we apply a transition of all properties over 0.3 seconds. Finally, we define the hover state for the send button. When the user hovers over the send button, we target the SVG path. On hover, we set the fill color to a dark gray value and the stroke color to white. This matches the active state styling and gives clear visual feedback. And that wraps everything up. We have now walked through the entire HTML structure and every CSS rule in order, explaining how this message input interface is built and styled from top to bottom. And now out message input works very nice and modern. If you liked the video, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That's it for today's video. See you in the next one. Have fun.